Oh good, I still have light. I better be quick doing this because that sun is setting and I'm losing precious daylight. Oh my goodness, look at this stack. Oh, I'm not used to this. So, wow, check me. I'm actually filming my wrap up on the last day of August. That is quite an achievement for me. I'm never normally this organised. I'm always like mid or a good week into the next month before I end up filming a wrap up. So it's quite nice, but you know, I figured I've got makeup on, my hair is done. I cut it again, by the way. So another month has passed and I did a little bit better this month than I did last month, so that's always good. I've read 4 books, but I started 5, so that is great. I'm just not reading the same at the moment. I don't know what it is. Just it's not even that I'm doing anything different in my life. It's just that I'm just reading less, a lot less, and I just don't know. I don't know why. I don't know what it is. I've got plenty of books to read. I've got plenty of choice. I'm just not doing it. I kicked off August with A Stranger on the Beach by Michelle Campbell. I can't remember all my ratings for these books, so bear with me. If I make a mistake, I'll put it up on screen, but I think I have a rough idea of what I did. But I gave this book a 4 out of 5. It pleasantly surprised me. I'll read the back to you so you can kind of get an idea of what it's about. And I felt like it shocked me. I was like, oh, this worked out so much better than I thought it was going to be. So, it meant nothing to her and everything to him. Caroline had everything. The gorgeous beach house built for holidays and parties, a seemingly happy marriage. But when she discovers her husband has been lying to her, she turns to a handsome stranger for comfort and revenge. A brief, reckless affair that was meant to be fun, but soon becomes something much more sinister. As Caroline's marriage and wealthy lifestyle begin to crumble, so her lover's obsession grows. He's in her life, in her house, and among her family, and his infatuation is growing more destructive. And when Caroline's husband goes missing, Caroline finds herself accused of murder. But what is she hiding? So I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. I feel like I really enjoyed it. It starts off with like chapters told from Caroline's perspective and they're told in first person, and then we get a few chapters told from her lover's perspective. He's called Aidan, and they were in third person, so I always feel like when you get that kind of the one chapter's in first person and others in third person, I feel like you tend to but you tend to be not even rooting for her, but you're more supportive of the character who's in first person than third person. Well, I find that. Anyway, I just find like if you're hearing something first person, you feel that connection to a character on a better level than if it's third person, although I must admit, I do like a third person. I like writing in third person, weirdly enough, but I feel like third person, depending on what kind of genre maybe the book is, I like third person, but also first person is actually really good for like getting to know your characters well and understanding them on an emotional level and blah 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 blah. But I found that I was rooting for Caroline a lot of the time, but then I found that the chapters were so conflicting because you were getting told one thing from Caroline and then another thing from Aidan, and it was like, wait a minute. And I started to kind of question Caroline, and I was kind of like, wait a minute. So I feel like it was actually pretty good. It was full of some surprises. I will, however, say though, looking back, and if I was to reread the book, I feel like there's a lot of kind of unanswered questions that happened that I feel like weren't really explained, and I'm a little bit confused by some things, and I don't really want to like talk about this. I feel like this started as one thing and then it became something else, and that was fine, you know, it definitely surprised me. Looking back now, it just makes me think like, so what did Caroline actually know to begin with before this plot kicked off? Because things happened that you then kind of realize like, wait a minute, did she know? I don't want to talk about this because I don't want to spoil it in case you decide to read the book, but there was a lot of kind of things that kind of just didn't really make sense once you know what you know by the end. So yeah. Also as well, like it took a while before like Caroline's husband went missing, and I was like, we only had about a quarter of the book to go. Like I'd fully reached the halfway mark and he still wasn't missing, and I was like, bitch, what? Like what? still here. Like, I kind of wondered if maybe he was going to disappear like right from the start, but he kept popping up, and I was like, okay, you're still here. Why are you still here? So I feel like, you know, to put that on, I feel like that last kind of line of when Caroline's husband goes missing, Caroline finds herself accused of murder. I wish they hadn't said that, because it took a long time before they kind of think that Caroline did it, and then once you kind of know what you know and everything, it's like, well, you didn't have to put that on the back of your book, because you basically kind of spoiled your own plot. Sort of, yeah. I'm trying not to spoil this, but maybe I just sort of gave it away, but not really. I didn't really give it away, but so I feel like to put that on the back of the book was a bit kind of silly, because it kind of spoils part of it, because otherwise if you just said that he went missing, you don't have to say that Caroline was accused, because you were kind of waiting for that to happen, and it took so long for that to happen. Then when it finally did happen, and then the book was basically over, and it was like, okay, alright. So, but I still gave this book 4 out of 5, just because it did kind of keep me guessing a little bit. I was a bit kind of suspicious of what was going to happen. There were a few kind of, I think just for the sheer fact that I started off believing one thing and then completely changed my perspective by the end. It was great. It was a bit of a twisty road, but I was just left waiting for like her husband to go missing, and it took a while before that actually happened. But it did eventually happen, and yeah. So, but I gave it 4 or 5 stars, because as a thriller, it was pretty good, and it was actually kind of refreshing. I actually enjoyed the whole creepy sort of stalker lover type trope. We kind of love that. We love when one character's obsessed with another character instead of them being madly in love with each other. Next up after that, I went on to Magpie by Sophie Draper. I was a little bit nervous to read this book, to be perfectly honest, because I'd read another book by Sophie Draper called Cuckoo, and to be perfectly honest, I didn't really like it. I did a review on it way back in like December of last year, and I didn't really like the book all that much. But this one, however, this one was a lot better, I thought. I will read it back to you again, and you can sort of make your mind up if this is a book for you. It's another kind of mystery type thriller, but psychological thriller. Is it really a thriller? Not really, actually. She's married to him, but does she know him at all? Claire lives with her family in a beautiful house overlooking the water, but she feels as if she's married to a stranger, one who is leading a double life. As soon as she can get their son Joe away from him, she's determined to leave Duncan. But finding out the truth about Duncan's secret life leads to consequences Claire never planned for. Now Joe is missing, and she's struggling to piece together the events of the night that tore them all apart. Alone in an isolated cottage, hiding from Duncan, Claire tries to unravel the lies they've told each other. And themselves. Something happened to her family, but can she face the truth? I think I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. Oh, it's a swallow. I think I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars as well. I feel like it was pretty good. I was enjoying it quite a bit. It's one of those books as well that I feel like once you've kind of read it and you're like, oh yeah, I'm giving that 4 out of 5 stars, but then the more you kind of think about it, and once you like read the back of the book again, you're kind of like, was it actually as good as I thought it was, or was it just good because there was a few kind of like surprises along the way? Sometimes I feel like maybe I would give a book a higher review just because there's like a surprise that really surprises me and I feel like, oh wow, I'm gonna give that a high review just because that one moment was just worth it. Sometimes I feel like that's like an exception, but I don't really know. I don't know, it's awkward. But this book is all over the place, to be perfectly honest. There's chapters from Claire and chapters from Duncan. Yet again, Claire was in first person, Duncan was in third person. Then we also have chapters which are Claire before and Claire after, and Duncan. We didn't get any Duncan before chapters, they were all Duncan after. And it was like, before and after what? I don't know. So, I mean, I don't find timelines hard to follow, especially if they give you like a before and after. It's sometimes I think they can get a little bit jumbled in your mind. You maybe forget and you're like, oh, yeah, it was easy enough to tell because the before chapters were when Joe was there, and then the after chapters were when Joe was missing and Claire was at our cottage, so that was easy enough to follow. I kind of feel like, I don't know, I was kind of hoping for more from Duncan's secret life. I really hoped it wasn't going to be just like, oh, this man was having an affair, because Claire went on as if to say like, yep, I always knew he was having affairs, and it was like, affairs? Plural? More than one? More than one woman? And then it comes out with who he was having like an affair with, and it was like, oh, it was just a woman from work. Was this a long-term thing? Was this like just, you know, did we even really, we didn't even really get to find out much more, or did we? But he was having like one night stands and stuff, and it was like, okay, that's a bit boring. I really thought his double life was going to be a bit more interesting. I'm just over affairs in novels, to be perfectly honest. When it's just like, it's just your basic affair. I would love something different. Maybe something like her husband was secretly gay, or maybe, I don't know, just he was up to something maybe illegal, or I don't know, literally anything but an affair. I am so tired of reading about affairs. They probably are such common things, so you know, people throw them into their books, and but I feel like if it's more of a surprise, like it's like it's shocking, like if you're like, oh my god, I can't believe this character was having an affair, then that's fair enough. But if you're gonna just talk about it the whole way through the book, and then it turns out, yup, it's just an affair, he's having an affair with a girl from work, it's like, ugh, boring. Give me something new, please, please. And then there was a twist. The twist? I figured it out. Now let me tell you, this was one of these situations where, as I'm reading the book, I had this thought, and I was like, wait a minute, let me just figure this out. Claire, she's at this cottage, she's not seen Duncan, she's searching for Joe, her son. There was this whole thing with this like little abandoned village, and apparently people lived there, but she'd never seen any people, and then she meets this guy, and just going by the way things were being discussed, I was like, wait a minute, I wonder if, no, I'm not going to tell you what it is, I'm not going to tell you what I thought, but I had this theory, and I was like, what if, but then I thought, nah, it's not gonna be the case. This is just your regular mystery, little bit of a thriller. Not really a thriller though, to be honest. I thought this is just another mystery book, you know, with the husband and the affair and everything, the missing son. I was actually surprised the son was 18 years old. I don't know why I just automatically pictured it was going to be like a young child, but it wasn't. It was a grown son. But I had this thought, and I was like, I wonder, but then I thought, nah, this is not going to be the case. This is just, like I said, a regular mystery. It's not going to be the case. It'd be so great if it was, but I doubt it. And then more things were happening, and I was starting to question myself, and I was like, nah, I'm wrong. But then I was like, oh, but am I right though? And then it got to the end, and I was like, I was right, bitch. I was right. 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 Louder for the people in the back. Me, Laura. Hello, nice to meet you. Why did I just tap myself on the head? Hello, nice to meet you. I was right. Just call me Sherlock Holmes. I swear. I swear. I'm getting so good now. I mean, this probably isn't even such a credit, because I feel like people who read a lot maybe are quite prone to picking up on things. But listen, credit where credit is due. I love it now. I feel like I've gotten so good at picking up on things in books that I'm like figuring out mysteries and stuff, or figuring out the twists before they've even been like revealed or sort of revealed. You know how sometimes there's like a turning point in a book where there's a twist and you sort of pick up on it and you're like, wait a minute, and then it happens and it's like, oh my god, I can't believe it, I was right. But like, I'm picking up on these twists so early now, and I'm like, who is she? Who am I? Just call me Basil, the Great Mouse Detective. What was that movie? Was it Basil? It's basically like Sherlock Holmes but a mouse. It's great. Like, it also kind of, no, but it does ruin books a little bit, because I'm picking up on these twists and I'm thinking about them before they're even sort of revealed, and then they do happen and I'm like, oh, I was right. It's nice to be right though. It is nice. So, moving on, because I'm talking too much about these books. Then, thus the Scallywagathon commenced. I stumbled upon this readathon. I was like a few days before it started, so I quickly like made up my TBR, which I didn't actually finish. We don't talk about that. I started off the week reading The Binding by Bridget Collins, and I this book could have been a 5-star, but it wasn't. I ended up giving it 4 stars. But I did a review on this and I'm currently in the process of editing it, because guess what? I decided to sit down and do a book review, which I haven't done in a long time. I can't remember the last time I actually sat down and talked about a book, like just one book for a solid whatever length of time and made it like a video. I haven't done a proper book review in so long that when it came to doing it, guess what happened? I ended up speaking for 58 minutes. 15 minutes. I'm currently in the process of editing that video. I'm halfway into it. I've got it down to about 52 minutes. Watch the space because it's coming. It is coming. If I can't cut that footage down much more, it's gonna be 50 minutes long. And the worst thing was, everything I was talking about, I had so much I just wanted to talk about that book, and then I finally got around to doing it, and it's like, there's nothing I can really cut out because it's all important facts. It's all things that you should know about this book and why I liked it and why I didn't like it. I don't know what I can cut out. So I'll read the back to you. Emmett Farmer is a binder's apprentice. His job is to handcraft beautiful books, and within each to capture something unique and extraordinary, a memory. If you have something you want to forget or a secret to hide, he can bind it, and you will never have to remember the pain it caused. In a vault under his mentor's workshop, row upon row of books and secrets are meticulously stored and recorded. Then one day Emmett makes an astonishing discovery. One of the volumes has his name on it. Now, let me tell you, this book, wow, look at that sun shining. Let me tell you about this book. I loved it, and I fell in love with the idea of this book. I was like, wow, I love this. We love a bit of like magical realism, because I feel like I wouldn't call this book quite a fantasy book. It was just like a book with a bit of magical realism in it, that there was this one thing in this universe that happens that we don't really talk about it, in a sense of being like, wow, that's so odd, people can do this. But it was one of those things that, you know, just existed in the world, and it wasn't really talked about how it was done or anything like that, or how it came to be, or really much more about it. But I do feel like the characters' personal lives kind of took over the story a bit, and I feel like we didn't really get to see Emmett as like the binder's apprentice. I mean, yeah, we did for like 100 pages because this book got off to such a slow start, but nothing really happened in those first 100 pages. And then his mentor, his mentor, he ended up leaving his mentor, basically. Things happened. And I feel like I was a little bit disheartened that the story that I felt like I was promised on the back of the book didn't really happen. Like, Emmett wasn't really doing anything as the binder's apprentice when he was like with the binder. He ended up just kind of like basically beginning to learn how to do it. So he was doing like needlework or working with like leather and stuff, crafting the books. He would be making like part of the books, but he was never making like a full book yet. And he never even got taught how to bind or anything else. He was told like odd bits of information by his mentor, and that was it. And then before we know it, the next thing, he's with this other binder who does absolutely nothing to teach him or anything like that. He sends him off to a job to bind some girl, and somehow Emmett was just able to do it without actually having any training whatsoever. And if there's one thing I hate in books, it's when a character can just do something that they've never done in their life before. It's like, you know, whenever you have the kind of magical stuff in a book, and it's like characters are just expected to do these things, and they just do it. Like, that was the problem for me, was that he had no idea what he was doing, but then he was able to just do it. And I was a bit like, well, alright then. There was a very charming romance that was so unexpected in this book, and if you know me, you know I don't really like romance in books. The main reason being that I don't like it, I've realised, is because sometimes I feel like our main character develops a crush or really falls in love with the other character too quickly for me to actually get an understanding of whether or not I like the other character. So I realised that's what the problem is with me and like romance in books. It's not so much that I hate romance, because I love love. I do, I love love. But I feel like if it's kind of forced on me and it's with another character that I've not yet decided if I like them or not, or if I don't really like them, and then the romance just feels really forced to me, and I'm just like roll my eyes every time we come across this character, and it's like, ugh, whatever. But this time, this was a little bit, this wasn't quite enemies to lovers, but you know, it was a little bit kind of, they didn't really like each other, and then you could just see the sexual tension between them. I was like, Yeah, boy, you love him. You love him. It was a gay romance, by the way. Not that that really matters, but it was a gay romance, and it was so unexpected. And I was like, and it was set in kind of like sort of like the 1900s, so you know that kind of relationship was a bit taboo back then, so you can kind of guess how things went, but it was actually really adorable, really cute. I loved the romance. I was rooting for the two characters. I loved both the characters, and I absolutely loved the little love story, because I was like, oh my god, this is what I need from like a love story in a book. This is the kind of love story that I love. I love love, I tell you, I do. So I gave that book 4 out of 5 stars because it was adorable, but I would have given it 5 stars only if I felt like I got the story I was promised. Does that make sense? Because that was my issue. That was my issue. I just felt like I was not getting the story I was promised. It could have been, I feel like the kind of the world of the binding could have been expanded on a bit more. I feel like the first 100 pages was about it, and then it kind of moved on towards the romance, and the romance took over, which I didn't really mind because I loved it. But I just wish we kind of got a bit more. I feel like I wish it was a bit more fast paced in the beginning, and that we got more of the kind of backstory, not the backstory, but even like just our boy Emmett learning how to bind would have been just the cherry on top. After that, next up from the Scallywagathon was a book I've been putting off for a little while. After I read the first one in May, finally got around to reading the second one, and that is New Moon. Finally getting around to finishing the series. Yep. Where to start with New Moon? I did film some reactions while I was reading this book, so I still need to edit all that footage, put it together, and I'm not sure when it'll be up. It'll be up at some point. I don't even remember what I gave this. Did I give this book 4 stars? Did I rate it? What did I give it? Did I give it 4 stars? Did I give it 3 stars? Okay, so let's just say New Moon. New Moon. What were my thoughts on New Moon? Bella as a main character is so problematic. She's a terrible role model. She's honestly just, she's a bit boring. She is far too dependent on the men in her lives, from between Edward and Jacob. And it's the fact that it's like she literally acts like she cannot survive without her vampire boyfriend, and I'm like, oh my god, Bella. He is just a boy. It's just a boy. Get over it. Honestly, the fact that she literally goes into like a state of depression because her boyfriend broke up with her. But anyway, that aside, but I had to admit, what I really fell in love with this story was like her friendship with Jacob. Like, I feel like it was so well done in the books compared to like in the movie. From what I remember of the movie, I'm probably gonna rewatch it at some point. I recently rewatched Twilight for the first time in like years, and it was amazing how much I forgot, and I forgot how cringy it was. Like, oh my god, how people actually can watch that movie and take it seriously, I don't know. No offense if you like the movies, I just couldn't take it seriously. I was laughing too much through it. Like, the romance is so quick. It's like proper insta love. But also as well, like New Moon, from what I remember of New Moon in the movie, it's terrible. Honestly, the movies were terrible. Sorry about it, but they were. But from New Moon, I just remember like I couldn't take her friendship with Jacob seriously. And like, no offense to Kristen Stewart, but Bella Swan has like no personality, and she's a little bit sarcastic at times. I can't deal with it. But anyway, I absolutely love though her little friendship with Jacob. I feel like he was a better friend to her. He was exactly what she needed, and I feel like he did kind of like push the boundaries a few times, but I feel like he respected more that she said like, look Jacob, I'm sorry, we're only going to be friends. And then I felt like it was quite cute when you could see that she was kind of starting to come around to the idea of maybe one day she could feel ready to date again, and Jacob could potentially be her new boo. And I was like, oh, that's so sweet. Like, I feel like that wasn't really a thing in the movies. I feel like they did this whole thing of like Team Edward or Team Jacob, and it's like it was always going to be Team Edward. There was no doubt in my mind it was always going to end up being Team Edward. There was no way, because Bella was so obsessed with Edward, she wouldn't even give Jacob a second look, apart from when Jacob tried to basically walk out of her life. She'd run to him and give him a kiss just to keep him enticed and keep him in her life, basically. So it was like she misled that boy so much. But I feel like in this book it was actually really nice. I actually really liked it. I actually liked the werewolves a lot better than I liked the vampires. I'm officially Team Jacob. I was always Team Edward, I think, when I used to watch the movies. Although I do love Robert Pattinson so much, and I'm so excited to see him in this new Batman movie. I'm like, ah. And he's also in that new Christopher Nolan movie, Tenet. Tenet? Tenet. I'm so excited to see both of those because I love him. I feel like he's just so different from like Edward Cullen. Obviously, I mean, actors are not their characters, but I'm so excited to see his new movies because I absolutely love him. I love him. What does Taylor Lautner do these days? He's still around. I never see him. But yeah, Newman, I feel like I don't really need to read the back of it to you, but it's the sequel to Twilight. Edward basically dumps Bella for her own good, and then she's depressed. She makes good friends with Jacob Black. She meets all the vampires. Not the vampires, she meets the werewolves. There's some vampires from the first book that are still after her. Edward thinks she's dead. Edward decides to go to the Volturi to die because he can't live without Bella, which is so dumb. That's the one thing that gets me with these books, that I feel like it's so dumb. Stephanie Meyer, were you on crack or something when you wrote these books? Because I swear to God, the whole concept of like Edward can't live without Bella, and if Bella dies, Edward wants to die. He won't turn her into a vampire because it doesn't want to take away her soul or whatever, but yet she's gonna, you could be together forever if she was a vampire. You can't be together forever if she's human because she's gonna eventually die. She's gonna grow old. You are 17, you look 17, you're like a 17-year-old boy. She's gonna keep aging and aging until one day she's 50 and she looks like she's gonna have the 17-year-old. One day she's gonna be an old granny and she's gonna look like your grandmother. And it's like you're gonna keep up a relationship with her? What where's the sense? Make it make sense. And then he dumps her, and he was in his own state of depression because he broke up with her and he was having to live without her. I don't want to go. I don't want to keep going on about it. It drives me mad that that's the whole drive of these books, is like that Edward doesn't want to live without Bella, but he won't change her into a vampire. But then when he thought she was dead, he wanted to kill himself, and it's like, well, just save yourself some hassle, turn the bitch into a vampire. I honestly wish she had just turned into a vampire in the last book when she got bit by James. Okay, and finally, so those were the 4 books that I read in August. I also, at the end of the Scallywagathon, I still had 2 books to read, but the binding took me 3 days to read. Newman took me 3 days to read. And I had like 2 days of the readathon left by that point, and I was like, oh my god, what do I start? I had 2 possible choices. I had Catching Fire or Noughts and Crosses, and I decided to start with Catching Fire because I've already read this book before. I've been wanting to do a reread of the series because I read them years ago and I don't really remember much about them. I decided to do a reread of the series, and I decided I was just going to read Catching Fire. I thought I would read it a little quicker than I did. I'm like on page 200 and something, and it's like I'm there. I'm not even halfway. I'm nearly halfway. It's the sequel to The Hunger Games. If you know what The Hunger Games is, Katniss Everdeen. She and Peeta, they won the Hunger Games. They're now back in their hometown. Is it a town? It's a district. They're now back home in District 12, and they go on a victory tour, go around all the districts. There's rumours of an uprising. President Snow threatens her. Things go from bad to worse. And then there's the Quarter Quell, where the tributes are all chosen from a pool of the previous victors of the Hunger Games. So it ends up Katniss and Peeta are going back into the games. Yay. Catching Fire was always my favourite movie. But it's been a while since I read the books. I'm only about halfway through it, so maybe I should try and read some more tonight. And I just thought I'd include it in this wrap up because I won't include it in my next one. But I've already read it before, so it doesn't really matter. But so that was everything that I've read. I read 4.5 books, basically. Could have been 5. It could have been 5, but it's not. So yes, that was everything that I read, and I can't believe I'm so early filming this video. That is so not like me. Yeah, so thank you so much for watching this video, and I shall see you in my next one, whenever that may be. I've been talking for 30 minutes. It's the story of my life these days. I keep rambling. Some people do their wrap-ups like so quick. It's just, could never be me. There's a boot. What am I gonna read in September? I should make a TBR. I should make one of those like videos where it's like people do the most random things just to get their TBR, and it's like, oh my god, that would be fun. I don't know how I would do it though. Okay, right, I'm going now. I'm going. Goodbye.